Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 35 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, I'm Pamela Davis, and welcome back to episode 35 of the Well Done Life podcast. How are you all doing? I can't believe we're 35 episodes in. It really feels surreal. And I feel super grateful for all of the newcomers. Welcome. For all of my regular peeps, hey, what's up? Thank you for rocking with me. The Well Done Life podcast is all about building community by sharing our stories. We each have had experiences that we can all learn and grow from, and I look forward to connecting and growing with each of you all the time. So I just want to say thank you, and I really appreciate you being on the journey for me. Before we dive into this week's episode, I want to say thank you to all the first responders dealing with COVID-19. We're still all feeling the desire to get back to normal life. I definitely would love to take a trip and travel and do all those things, but there are still cases and deaths happening. So please just make sure that you're doing your part to be considerate. Please wear a mask. Social distance. Lead with kindness. I think kindness can do a lot as we try to understand everybody's perspective, especially right now. And in time like this, it's really about the little things. So let's dive into episode 35. If you've been around before, or just for my new folks, episode 35 is a recap episode. And a recap episode means that this is a point where I will look back at the last 6 episodes to kind of recap some of the things that were covered and set the intention for moving forward. I am a strong believer in signs and numbers, and so I think it's important to take a look back at the power in this number because it's going to be key to helping us decide what moves forward. And then every 7 is my favorite number. It is a number of completion. So we're moving a phase past and we're moving into a next phase. So I think you have to honor it by recapping it. So as I mentioned, I love sage, waist beads, numbers, and that led me to take a look at the meaning of the number 35 because the number 35 is a message from our angels that positive life changes are on the way for all of us. Yay, I think we could all definitely use some positivity in this new venture. And that the number 35 is comprised of the vibrations of the number 3 and 5. So essentially what that means is that the number 3 is the number of creativity, optimism, joy, enthusiasm, and growth. The number 5 is associated with change and sense perception. So when the vibration of number 5 is active in your life, it means that you're free to make important life choices that can lead to the manifestation of your desires. So like I mentioned, I'm truly believing that this is a point where we're about to see the manifestation of many great things in our life. And when I was thinking about it, I thought about how funny it is, how intentional life really can be. When I look back at episode 29, which is 2020, the year of the woman, in that episode, I talked about how in the middle of a global pandemic and social unrest, how women were taking charge and living their dreams while being on the front line of all of these challenges. And it's really important to think about that because women are the foundation of society. And we have to make sure that we value our place in it. Because yes, we are the ones who influence many things. We're the givers of life. So we have to look at and respect the roles that we play in helping society move through. And in the middle of COVID-19 and social unrest, we are seeing women take on a significant amount of roles in trying to fast track cures or vaccines for COVID-19, to running for vice president, or women out here manifesting their dreams on all levels, even on the front lines of social injustice issues. Women are taking a stand. But we're also at the same time, while we're taking that stand, we're taking care of our families. We're working full-time jobs. In many cases, a lot of women are homeschooling their children at the same time. Right now, a lot of us have a capes on and are superwoman. And if that's not the personification, again, of living your dreams and getting things done, then I don't know what is. And I wanted to take that episode to really kind of give praise and reverence to it because I think that that's going to continue to be the trend as we start to move forward through a lot of the things that we're facing. So we need to really think about, is this the time as women for us to sit on the sidelines, or is this an opportunity for us to get in the game and do some really great things? So that led me to wanting to talk about in episode 30, protecting your peace and saving lives. Because as I talked about in episode 29, as women, we're doing a lot of great things and we're handling a lot of things. And when you have all of those kind of challenges or just dealings with life coming at you, it becomes imperative that you guard your peace. And at the same time that you take this opportunity to address any type of disrespect. Because as women are going to continue focusing on building their dreams or bringing about change, we have to deal with the levels of disrespect and energy vampires that we're going to encounter along the journey. I would love to say that it's always going to be easy, but sadly, it's sometimes about battling your thoughts, your friends, and the insecurities of others as you're trying to build forth your vision for what you see for yourself, for your family, or what you're trying to do to, in a lot of instances, impact the world. And not everyone is going to want to see you advance, but you have to stay focused on what you want to do and what you can control. And that is a really slippery slope, because a lot of times we allow our mind and other people to really influence how we move. And when we're trying to take control of what we can control, that means that we have to stay focused on ourselves. And in that episode, I talked a lot about one of my favorite books, and I've referenced this book quite a few times, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I really love talking about it because essentially it changed my life. I was one of those people who spent a lot of time focused on trying to please other people, or a lot of time worrying about what someone thought of me, but not recognizing that sometimes when people are thinking things about you or saying things about you, not even sometimes, a lot of times, they're projecting their insecurities on you. And if you're not strong enough or aware, you're going to allow that to root into your spirit, and you have to stop doing that, because that's going to be the key for you being able to live the best life you can. So I'm going to talk a lot about the 4 agreements because, like I said, it did so much for me. And I want to make sure that I share it with as many people as possible, because I think a lot of times we make change complex. We make life complex. But the 4 agreements really break down and show you that just by being impeccable with your word, doing your best, learning how not to take things personally, and not making assumptions, you can live and manifest the life you want without the amount of stress and pressures that we tend to put on ourselves or we allow other people to put on us. Because I think it's important, as we, like I said, continue to grow and bring about change, that we recognize that there are areas within ourselves that we need to fix so that we can grow and get better and learn together. Because again, that's what living the well-done life is all about. And to kind of help go along with that, I actually then thought, I want to use this as an opportunity to bring about new voices to the podcast. So that led me into episode 31, The Overcomer. And in that episode, we welcomed our first guest on the Well Done Life podcast, Crystal Diaz, aka Chrissy D. And I really wanted Chrissy to be the first of many new voices that will come on to share their story, because Chrissy's story of overcoming mental illness and people pleasing really hit home for me. As someone who has battled mental illness, it is so important to keep talking about it to erase the stigma, because mental illness doesn't always present itself all the time. It can be triggered by stress. It can be triggered by trauma. And you have to be able to break down those stigma, because if I think about it, what we're going through right now with COVID-19, with social injustice, this is an opportunity for, if we're not all diagnosed with PTSD, I would be surprised, because it's like we're getting hit on all instances and we're carrying so much. And so I really feel like it's necessary that we share our stories so that others can learn what they can do to protect themselves mentally. Because that's the only way that we're going to grow. It's living the well-done life isn't about perfection. It's all about honesty. And I love the fact that Chrissy was so forthcoming about her experiences and being able to share how she was overcoming, how she overcame her mental break, how she overcame being institutionalized, and how she still focused on pursuing her dream because she didn't give up on herself. And she learned how to establish boundaries at such a young age, because there are many of us, myself included, who have struggled with putting boundaries on what we allow people to do in our lives. So I really wanted us to glean into her truth because it makes her beautiful. And I'm so glad that she came to share her journey. So I wanted to keep the momentum going, which led me into episode 32. And that was where we definitely welcomed another queen, Queen Lala. Queen Lala of the Palenque podcast joined us to show us that the queen is definitely here, and to talk about how she is building her own walled city, or Palenque, which is a safe place for all to learn about Black history, to share, to grow. Because as a Black woman, I love having someone out there authentically telling our stories. And I think it's very important to ensure that we're sharing that history in a way that educates and creates dialogue. Because if I were to look at where we are as a country, I feel that a lot of our issues tend to stem from us not having true, honest dialogue about the ills of racism and how it has affected our society. It's like the dirty little secret. And unfortunately, the dirty little secret that has gotten kind of whitewashed whitewashed during the course of the years, because unfortunately, the ills of it are just not palatable for many people. And I understand that, because I'm not going to pretend and say that our history was easy. Black history is not easy. It is very complex, and our relationships with America is complex. But I want people to understand, and that was why I brought Queen Lala on the show. I wanted people to understand that talking about our history is not a way to keep up anger. It is not a way to keep up emotions that can't be dealt with. It's a way of exposing the truth. It's a way of creating dialogue, because if I educate you on the experiences that Black Americans have experienced in America and our history, then you can ask questions, if you are not of Black descent, that will help you be able to learn and understand the experiences we have and how they have affected us generationally to where we are now. Because if we don't have these conversations, if we don't share this history, we are not properly preparing the next generation to be better than where we are. Because as Queen Lala and I both discussed in that podcast, we are first generation free, quote, air quotes, Black Americans. We were the ones born with all of our civil rights intact. And for us, the responsibility is strong, because we have to make sure that the generations after us don't have to go through this. But at the same time, they understand the history, that we are more than slavery. We are kings and queens, or we are groups that have built Palenques, our own walled city, which created independence and entrepreneurship within our culture. We are strong. We are descendants of kings and queens. So I wanted to make sure I had this queen here, because she is a griot. She is a passionate storyteller, an educator who is using her voice for the power of bringing people together, regardless of race, so that we can have a discussion which is going to elevate us all. So she was definitely one of my favorites to have on there. And I'm probably a little biased, because obviously we have a personal relationship. I've known her for a lot of my life, and I'm just so grateful to have a friend or sister in her. And then the next queen that we welcome in episode 33 was Maya Dunn. Maya Dunn of the Style Delegate and Maya Mattia is just an amazing person. She is truly the rose that grew out of concrete. She grew up in poverty, and she has seen her share of distress. She was a teenage mom, and she has gone on to be a motivator, a business owner, a home owner. She built herself up from her previous experiences and is using her voice to encourage women to really be able to move forward past the pain that they may have experienced in their childhood, or that has the stigma of being a teenage mother. Because we all had many situations in our lives where, life kind of veered a little bit off course. But Maya shows you that with hard work and determination, you can veer back on course and you can make amazing things happen. So I wanted to share her journey because she is truly just continuing to grow and actualize herself. She is creating generational wealth from for her family and breaking chains. And as women, we have to recognize that as well, because we can do many things in the boardroom. We can do many things in the world. But to be able to break chains in your home, that's a powerful thing. So I wanted to make sure I spotlighted that queen. And then the final queen that I recently brought to the podcast was Tennille Martinez of the Ms. Virtual Maven. And she's a Maven doing it her way. It was really great to be able to have a conversation with Tennille, and I didn't mention this with Chrissy, but for a while, I have known them through being an influencer. But as an influencer, sometimes you notice that the conversations are very surface level, and you don't really get a chance to learn the person. So it was so important for me to have Tennille as well as Chrissy on, because when in the brief exchanges that I've had with them before our conversation on the podcast, I got a chance to kind of get a glimpse into their story. And I knew that each of these ladies brought something special. Like, they have overcome and gone through many things. As I talked about Chrissy's overcoming mental illness, Tennille is actually interesting because she's an educator by trade, a very passionate educator who is building her own businesses while being an educator. But at the same time, she is a relentless person for people, meaning she loves to see people win. I mean, how often do you get a chance to come across people who genuinely want to see you successful? She loves to meet people. She does. Her personality is so warm and infectious, and she's very open about her challenges before, trying to actualize herself and find her strength and her voice. And it is just wonderful to sit down and talk with Tennille, because she is as passionate in the classroom as she is with her clients, as she is with herself. And for her to be an educator and a business owner who acknowledges the fact that you have to invest in yourself and your growth and development, she was definitely someone I wanted on the call, because I think as we are starting to realize more and more, as we're starting to focus on our dreams more and more, we have to make time for ourselves. It's not just in an emotional space, but it's also in a space of growth and development. I've teased Tennille in the episode that she definitely has a life coach on her. Just something about her gives off life coach, and I could definitely see her doing that one day. But the fact that she invests in herself, she showed me right in that moment, if as an educator and an entrepreneur, that she can afford to invest in herself, any of us can. We all make excuses about why we can't take a class, why we can't do this. And you know what? They're excuses. And excuses are tools of incompetence that build monuments to nothing. We have to learn how to give into ourselves. If we want to grow and develop, and it means the world to us, then take that class. Then take that journaling moment. Do what is necessary to help you live your best life, because time is fleeting. And Tennille reminded me that there are people out there who you can genuinely partner with on your dreams, and they will help you fulfill them and encourage you and want absolutely nothing from you but to see you win. And yes, there may be a small financial investment involved. But again, if it's all about you and your growth and development, aren't you worth it? And again, that's kind of a rhetorical question that you have to answer for within yourself. It really is. But just ask yourself, if it's your dream and your vision, aren't you worth that investment? So I wanted to make sure that I brought her on because, like I said, she shows me through her actions and how she's able to champion for people, how relentless she is to see people win, that, heck, I'm worth it. I hope you're worth it too. And having Tennille on just kind of has continued to inspire me. I have more wonderful voices lined up for you. But essentially, I want everyone to really take this time to think about, what you want to accomplish and how you want to go about getting there. And it's not about doing it all at one time, because you don't have to do that. But take a step. Take that step that's going to help you live your best life. Like I mentioned in an episode before, I was going to talk about Chadwick Boseman and his passing. And like I said, he's one of my favorite actors. But one of the things that I will take the most from him, not is just his acting talent, but his heart and his desire and his fight to live life on his terms. Because anyone that is able to accomplish what he was able to accomplish while battling cancer, that truly shows you that there are really no excuses as to why we cannot go out here and live our best lives. We really have to take control over how we want our life to be. It's not about sharing everything on social media. It's not about, trying to fight the fight or whatever. It's about doing the things that mean the most to you, that are going to help bring you closer to living your best life. And that's really all about you living on your terms. And tonight, I'm recording this on Friday night. It's at 8:19, and the notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she just passed away. And she was 87 years old. And if you don't know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was one of the founding Supreme Court justice. She is a fighter for gender equality and rights. And unfortunately, her time has gone where she has transitioned. And she fought tirelessly, fought cancer and still stayed present and was advocating to the end. She will truly be missed. Her legacy will speak volumes for herself. But at the same time, again, another powerful woman out here giving it her all to the very end. We have to take the time that we are given to give our all so that we can live the life that we want. Because that's what living the well-done life is about. At the end of the day, when you are standing before God and He looks down at your ledger and all that He sees that you do, He should look at it and say, well done. That's my goal. So I want that same goal for you. So I hope that you've enjoyed this recap episode. It's always one of my favorites to kind of look back because it just reminds me of some of the great things that have happened, some of the losses that we've experienced, and it gives me hope that there are many more wonderful things to come forward. I really appreciate you guys staying on the journey with me. Again, this is about growth. This is about development. I'm going to have all of my social media information in the show notes, but I definitely hope that you will continue on the journey. I welcome your feedback. I appreciate you all for everything that you do. Stay well, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk next week. Bye-bye.